Welcome back to Bench Press and Business. You've got me, Dan Bird, and Mr. Love over there. Love today. So it's just us. Going to be talking through some really interesting stuff from a careers perspective. So I know there's quite a lot of people out there at the moment thinking about moving from PT into that, or people that maybe have been PTs for a while and want a bit of a change. We're jumping on. That's something we're going to talk through and run through how we found it, our experiences of it, and probably some of the stuff we've seen, as well as we've helped other PTs transition and move into that side of things. So what's your thoughts on it, mate? It's over to you, really. What do you think?
Well, for me, probably best for us to chat about like why we transitioned. Do you know what I mean?
And
why it come about? Because probably a lot of people say that gym managers are failed PTs and stuff like that, don't they? Do you know, but they don't really know. And that used to get me fuming, that, because it did, because my PT business was really good at that point when I wanted to transition. It was based off my long-term plan and what I thought I wanted to do at that time, and it was to open my own unit, which is most people's dreams at times. And I thought to myself that I know how to coach people, I know how I'm running my own business, but what was difficult for me to understand or to compute was how I'd run a facility and how I would pay like bills, fixtures and fittings getting done, all that kind of stuff. I didn't have an idea in my mind on how that would go. So I thought if I take a manager's role, then I'm going to understand that, because I'm going to have to deal with operations, which I've never dealt with before in my life. Do you know what I mean? And then just becoming the fitness manager first, because I wanted to still focus solely on that aspect of stuff, and then progressing into assistant management, which then give me a bigger platform to work off, really, or a bigger idea. Not a platform, that's probably the wrong thing to say. A bigger idea of how to run a facility, because when the manager's not in, it's all down to me. Operation standards, making sure that I know that we do audits and stuff like that, and it was just getting my head around that kind of stuff, like what kind of procedures need to be in place. It's not just I'm a good PT, I want to run a gym and have classes and I have this unit that I've got that's going to be unreal. You need to look at health and safety, and you need to think about that. So that was my angle, really, mate. What about you?
Mine was more circumstance, to be fair. I think being so young when I came into the industry, it was one of those where it was quite career driven anyway. I'd been a PT for 6 years, and I put in quite a lot of eggs into the basket of tutoring and teaching courses, and was doing that all over the country. We ended up having quite a lot of our funding taken away. So although I had, some distance coaching clients and stuff at the time, that wasn't enough for me to cover what I needed to cover. I'd moved out quite young. I had my own space, so I'd like to say that I got driven really from a young age. It was almost like I fell into management. Really, it wasn't something that I ever set out to do with the aim of going and being like, I want to take over the world. It wasn't really that. So like I'd been successful and had success and moved myself into decent positions at a young age, and thought, oh, why not? Let's go and give it a go. I've got bills to pay. Let me jump in here for a minute and see how I find it. And I hated it, mate, to start off with. Absolutely hated it because I was used to having the freedom of running my own business. I was used to, having that flexibility of working with a company, freelance, delivering the courses that you were in control of what contracts you picked up. Obviously, it was very rare that you ever turned one down, to be fair, because it was just like, loved it, buzzed off it. But that flexibility you had, you were in control, you were self-employed. So originally, when I first moved into it, I was like, what have I got myself into here? Because I was very, very sales. When I say sales folk, what I mean is hard selling, as in prospect walks in, well, the drill. Prospect walks in, tour them around the club, try and get them signed up to a 12-month or an 18-month membership there and then, rather than building that like very, very small window of building rapport, which was coming up as I ended up getting into as a PT. Yeah, I struggled initially, but that initial 6 weeks, you have your probation period, don't you, when you first jump in? And I learned so much. And I think probably if anyone's listening as a bit of a takeaway, one of the things that I had to get my head around was actually it's all right for me to be me. Do you get what I mean? Like I'd come in and I'd seen these other managers and how they worked, and people that were very direct, and like, you've got to hit your targets, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, and it was like very very hard. And I wasn't used to that. It took me a while to get used to that. But then, as I say, you start to think, well, actually, maybe I don't have to be like these other people. I don't have to manage that way. I don't have to be in bed people off and shout and rant and rave. You've seen managers like that in clubs that have almost that power trip, and they think that, you know what, if for me to be a good manager, I've got to go and tell people what to do. And it's not that at all. It's the opposite. And as I say, for me, one of the biggest things that I did start to learn was actually all of the skills and the stuff that I'd worked on as a coach, as a PT, as a tutor, I could pick up and move into my skill set as a manager. So I think the experience of that was something that massively helped, really. I don't know what you think on that, mate, in terms of skills. What would you say?
Well, firstly, it was very similar to what you were saying about like going into a very sales-based environment where everybody was like on your insights, everybody was red, and you had to be a red type of manager. You've got to be direct. You've got to be able to have difficult conversations with people. You can't show weakness. It was like that Leonardo DiCaprio film. Like, you had to be that kind of, I forget what it's called, Wolf of Wall Street. And it was like that. Like, that was the environment I came into, and I've come from very similar to what you were just saying, like supporting and guiding these clients to then get the result what they want, but it's all based off an element of support. And when I went into that management world, there was kind of like, you won't make it because you can't, you're not managing like this. And in my mind, I was like, that's mad, because like people will work for me because they believe in the vision that I've got. And I think mine was a little bit different because I'm quite stubborn, and I'm stubborn with my ways of doing things. And I say it to you all the time, mate. But like, I'd rather fail doing something the way I want to do it, and the way I vision it, than doing it the way somebody else is telling me to do it. Like that, I would hate to lose a position or something not work out because I've not done it the way I feel like it's the right way to do. And I think I went in with just that mindset straight off the bat. Like, I need to build relationships with the sales team. I need to build. I don't know nothing about sales. At that time, I knew nothing about hard selling and sales. So the sales manager I needed to lean on that guy as much as possible. The operations manager, I knew nothing about operations. Even while I was a gym manager, I didn't give a crap about operations. But I knew how to help, support, and nurture somebody to get where they want to get to in their career. And I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to do it that way. And if I fail my probation or I don't make it, then at least I've done it off the way that I've tried to do it. And like you said a minute ago, like with transferable skills, it's my favorite word, isn't it? But there's so many things that transfer from how you support, nurture, and coach a client to what you do with a team of people that are working, like, I don't like using that phrase, under somebody, but working alongside and with a line manager. Like, you need to support these people in order to reach an end goal, and all that comes into play. Nothing changed, nothing at all. I don't know what you think on that.
Yeah, it's a couple of things that you were saying there. I was just thinking, like, that self-doubt, mate, was unreal for me. Like, I'm quite an introverted character anyway, as you know, and for me, like, you just over-analysing and you're thinking, wow, like, this is sure, I'm in the wrong place. I'm in the wrong job. This is, I'm not good at this. I can't do it. I'm getting people saying that I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. And like, for me, processes and stuff come quite natural. I'm quite used to following structures and processes. That's what I'm fine with. But when you say there that having those difficult conversations, I think what people tend to get in their mind is how a difficult conversation looks on on TV or on the fucking films, or do you know what I mean? Like it's you've got to go in there and you've got to point at them and you've got to go bam, 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 bam. And it's not that at all. I think when people say difficult conversations, they probably build it up in their head a million times worse than what it has to be. And how you have that conversation is like there's numerous ways to do it. And like for me, it's asking the right questions, rather than me sitting there saying you're being a dick. Like I just revert back to what is normal and natural for me and ask the questions so that they start to see and reframe what it is that's gone on, and all of a sudden realize, actually, you know what, I've not dealt with that in the right way, and I should have gone about it in a different way. And it's like there's different ways of having those difficult conversations, isn't there? Sometimes you have got to be a little bit direct, like, don't get me wrong, you do, and that takes practice. If it's not natural for you, it absolutely takes practice. But I think it's funny, I was talking to Ant about this on one of the lives on their Facebook group, and what you're good at when you're a PT, when you're a coach, when you're whatever it is that you're doing before, just goes with you. Do you get what I mean? So it's almost like those elements that you need to work on or polish, like as an example, like going and being a little bit more direct, or going and being a little bit more operationally minded, or going and developing your hard sales techniques and reduction to the ridiculous and all of that sort of stuff. It's still the same. Like, it doesn't change. Just because you're in a management role, it doesn't change. And what I think people don't necessarily do is they sit there and they don't sit there and say, right, well, these are my strengths, this is what I'm good at. Actually, although let's take a commercial facility as an example. Like, you're going to get FCs or PTs or whatever role they're in roaming around the gym floor where their resets are boxed, like the gym looks class, everything's really, really clean, like, and they take that with them into management, but they might be not great at interacting and building rapport and building relationships. So then when they go into management, like, it's still a weakness. It's still something that they need to work on. But even more so because now they've got relationships to build with people that are going to impact the results of what it is that they do. So yeah, I think sometimes when you hear it quite a lot, I want that stable income. I want to go and, like, which is one of our frustrations anyway, isn't it, mate? But like, you hear that quite often, but then people don't realize that actually whatever your area is that you need to work on, that's still going to go with you. It's not going to vanish just because you've moved into this AGM role or GM role or management role or team leader role or whatever it is. It's still the same. So yeah, I think absolutely there's some good points in there. Like, I suppose it all comes down to that little bit of self-awareness and having that self-reflection. And if the way you run your PT business absolutely transfers into the way you're going to run a club and the way you're going to run a team, like I say it 1,000,001 times, if you've got a group of people that are reporting into you, like you say, not massive fans of that working under you phrase, but reporting into you, I suppose, is probably a better way of looking at it. You're working alongside them, they report into you, but you've still got to, for me, treat them as though they're your client base. Like, how can I support them? How can I understand what they've got going on outside of work? How can I create an environment that's conducive to them being productive? Like, there's loads of stuff that goes into it, and it's exactly the same as running a client base. So I think for PTs that are listening, that are thinking about going into management, really have a sit down and analyze what it is that, or how it is that your business runs at the moment, because ultimately how that runs is down to how you set it up, and you're going to take those traits and those skills with you into whichever role it is that you move into. And if you're not great at setting up processes or systems, then you following those processes and systems when you move into a management role is still going to be the same. It's still going to be something you have to work on. If you're someone who builds relationships like really, really quickly, and is someone who can get people on side and bought in like at the click of a finger, then that's going to go with you and that's going to serve you as well. So I still think it's one of those for me where I think the phrase general manager as well, I feel like I'm going off on one a bit, mate, to be fair, but I think the phrase general manager is quite a wide one, isn't it? Because you've got to be a master of all trades if you're a general manager. Like, you're generally overseeing everything that's going on in the club. Do you know what I mean? But you're still going to have stuff that you're great at. Like, obviously for us, we're going to be biased sat on this call, mate, because we're all about PTs, aren't we? But there's going to be other managers that will jump on and speak with us that are more, sales minded or commercially driven, or do you get what I mean? And that's absolutely fine. Like, I think one of the worst things that I did, and we've touched on it already, is beat myself up because I wasn't how all of the other managers were in that facility that I walked into, or all of the other managers that were coming in and were visiting the club. I wasn't like those guys. And it took me a while to get used to, actually, that's all right. And I can put my own spin on it. And actually, just because I disagree with how you're doing it, that doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means that I've got a different style, and that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, mate. Like I was just thinking then as well. Like if I look at a couple of the people that was in the first company that I went in as a manager in, and seen like the way they did it, they was really successful, but they like managed with an iron fist.
Yeah.
And that works for them. And I'll probably use the phrase like, if you look at football managers, you've got different types of managers that people would consider world class, and guys who get you out of the shit pretty much.
Yeah.
If you look at a Sam Allardyce, he's going to come in and he's going to save you from relegation 9 times out of 10, because he'll go in what's that other guy called, that Nigel Pearson? They'll go in, they'll smash the dressing room to bits, they'll call you out on how bad you are. They manage with fear, and that gets a short-term result. Whereas if you look at nurturing, like, well, Mikel Arteta at the moment with Arsenal, he's gone in there.
Good one, son.
He's buzzing now because he's an Arsenal. If you, it's a prime example. He's gone in there and he's assessed the situation, and that club was in a mess. And he's looked at it and he's assessed the situation and he's worked with people. He's not gone and tried to outsource millions and millions of pounds. He's worked with the group of people that he's got around him, and then he's looked at what he's got, what he needs to do, and he's nurtured. And I think that's one of the biggest things that you can do, because not only do you need to understand the people that you're working with, or that you're supporting, or that you're leading, then they've got to understand you. And if they don't know and understand your vision or what you're trying to achieve in that facility or at that football club or wherever, then they're not going to move along with you. And then that's when people start to leave. And one of the most difficult things when I first started in management was the amount of people that left the company. And I mean employees. Like the cleaners would leave, the sales manager would leave, sales staff would leave, receptionists would leave. And these are all people that are hands-on with every member that you see in the gym. Like from the sales staff, they meet them on the first point of contact. So that's a massive, massive impact that you can make on this member's life. And then they'd go into reception and they're going to chat to a receptionist. So for the lifespan of a member, they're the first 2 points of contact. The chance me as the general manager is miles away until I'm on the gym floor or in the reception area or whatever. So if they don't understand what the culture I'm trying to build is, or they don't like it, or they're not a part of it, then I'm going to struggle as a manager. And I think that's something that I've always looked at. And I think, like you said, I took that from my PT business. Like I was really good with groups. It's something that I thrived off. One-to-one, I enjoy as well. But when I've got groups of people, I come alive a little bit because I know how to support groups of people and integrate them and help them. People who are a little bit lonely be part of something. And it's exactly the same with when I was managing. I knew that these groups of people, I'd need to do fortnightly meetings with these guys and then transition them into weekly meetings, which wasn't just all about operations. We was getting to know each other and understand each other and do like just like when you just little things like when you fall and trust falling and stuff like that, and just all types of games to get people to understand and enjoy being in an environment that they're going to spend most of their life in there. You know what I mean?
It's true, mate. And it, like, people spend that much time at work, and if it's an environment that just absolutely burns their head out, like, look at the impact that's having on their life, because they're taking that home, aren't they, at the end of the day. And I think one of the things you say there is like having them feel involved and like they matter and like you actually genuinely care about them. It's all stuff that you do with clients if you're a PT, but like if they're walking around and your staff are walking around feeling like they're 10 foot tall, they're going to run through walls for you. If you're actually going out of your way to help them, and like, it's just about being a good fucking human being, in it, mate. Like, genuinely being a good human being. If someone's got stuff going on at home, how can I be a good person and help them out? And that's not to the extent of letting people take the piss, because obviously that's that's different, isn't it? But like, if you've got those, if you've created the right culture, if you've created the right setup, if you've involved people in creating that and building it from the ground up, and they're genuinely a part of that process, there's no real reason why they would take the piss, because those boundaries have been agreed by everyone that's involved in that creation process. Yeah. And it's exactly the same as we say with the client, like the service that they need. It's just your favorite word, transferable, mate. You literally just pick it up and put it in there.
I would always finger me as well. Like if you're somebody that's listening, or a PT that's really thinking about moving into management, because during these times at the moment, like there is uncertainty, and you'll probably in your mind you'll seek that this will support you at this time. Because if my PT business is struggling and I've not got any systems in place to support these clients that will continue to pay while the club's shut down, I can't do that. So I need to get a job as a gym manager. I think that just have a real think about what this will do for you and what the path is that you're looking to go. And if you want to continue to be a personal trainer or move on to being an online coach, or if personal training is your bread and butter and you love it, but it's at this moment in time, it's because you're not making the money that you should do, then going into manager, is that the right decision at this moment in time? I'd always encourage people to think long term, and it's hard when shit's going on, and like a quick win can be an assistant manager role. But if you've got X amount of clients ready to and then you're going to go into management where you're going to give 40 hours a week to somebody else, how are you going to support them clients and do that at the same time? So I think what I'm trying to say is really map out and plan and this is I'm probably saying this, mate, to be fair, because this is what I did in my head. I really mapped out and planned like what the benefit of being a gym manager was, but taking the financial element out of it, or the financial security out of it.
Yeah.
To say is I really looked at what's this going to get me, and is it going to get me any closer to what I actually desire and want, and how will that work? How will that look? Then can I transfer my skills that I'm using in my current role to support me in this one? Do you know what I mean?
I think you're going to resent it, aren't you, if you just go in there for the sake of like I need a paycheck. Do you know what I mean? Like that's probably the one reason not to do it. So going into it for the right reasons. What does it allow you to do that you're not able to do now? As I say, I hated it initially because I walked in there and I was like, fucking hell, this is the opposite of everything. So I probably didn't know anywhere near enough about what the role involved for me to make an accurate decision. So yeah, a learning of mine, hopefully to share with yourself and the guys listening, is probably go and find out a little bit more about what it's about. Go and speak to people that are in those positions. Go and find out what they enjoy, what they don't enjoy. If they've got the same or similar personality to you, then that's probably worth having a conversation with them to go and find out, isn't it? Because again, if you're going into it for reasons that aren't maybe long term, or then it doesn't make sense. But no, absolutely, I think that's class. Cool. Anything else that you think like a big takeaway, or anything else that you think the guys would jump on? I had about 10, mate, and they've gone in one ear and out the other. I can't remember what they are.
Well, you just forgot them all.
Yeah.
I think it's probably a big one. It's not like I'm talking on behalf of Pure Gym stuff. Like when I was a manager at Pure Gym, and Pure Gym PT saying it's easy. Like, mate, it looks cool. It's easy money. You know what I mean? You're getting money guaranteed every month. It's easy, and you do nothing. You don't do anything. For those like there's a couple that I've supported to transition from PT into management, and it'll be ones that you never even would have dreamed of or thought of that would be their path. But listening to them speak now, and when I have chats with them, they're like, mate, you don't realize how much work there is. Like at times, and like peak, we've not even spoke about peak, mate. At times, you're constantly working. Like you don't switch off. not with a 24 hours.
I was going to say 24 hours, isn't it? So like, although you're not working 24 hours, you're almost like in that mindset of I'm on call, especially when you're, as you say, the GM. Like it's your responsibility, isn't it? At the end of the day, so
I think that like you said, it's gather as much information from the people that you know that are in that position as possible before you make that transition, because it can quickly taint your experience or vision, or no, experience or view of what the fitness industry is, moving from being a PT, self-employed, into then a manager, even a fitness coach. Even if you went from being a GI or a fitness coach and then into management, like the transition is so different. The amount of responsibility that you've got is worlds apart.
It's almost that like plate spinning, aren't you, at times? Because you, like we said, because it's such a general role. You know, you've got to spin your sales plate over here, you've got to spin your people plate over here, you've got to spin your operational plate, your health and safety plate. There's that many stuff that you're having to think of. Your member experience, what's that like? What's your longer term plans? What are you putting in now that's going to pay you off in 6 months, 12 months time? Because even then, like as you say, if you're walking in to take over a club, there's probably stuff in there that doesn't match what it is that you want to do. And for you to turn that around overnight is never going to happen. Like we work in behavior change as an industry. That's one of our main focuses, is changing people's behaviors. So we know that that's not an overnight thing. Like we know that. But again, at the same time, in a lot of environments, especially commercially, you do get that pressure of, right, we need something to change now. So finding that balance, and as you say, spinning those plates to be able to put the stuff in that you want to create the culture you're looking for in a period of time versus what's going to get you those quick wins is a skill in its own, isn't it? Like it's tough to learn that, and I think I only really got better at that through experience. I don't think that's maybe a natural thing. You don't know what you're looking for initially when you first come in, do you? Do you know what I mean? No. Like if you've never run a facility before, you don't know what you're looking for as good or as great. So I suppose that comes back to the point of the more involvement you can have, the more questions you can ask, the more you can go and spend time with people who are actually doing it, living it, breathing it before you make your decision and moving across. It's only going to benefit you, isn't it, really? Yeah. But then that also is probably going to tell you whether it's something you actually want to do. Yeah. Because otherwise you're just going to, as we say, resent it and not get the full benefit out of that. But yeah, no, I agree, mate. I think it's bang on. Like it's not easy. It's not easy, is it? It's not easy.
I think you do go in thinking, especially when you make the application or you apply or you start to think about doing it, you feel like it would be easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mate, you read the job description and you're like, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, sounds nice one, easy. But like, because there's so much going on all the time, how often, mate, have you started something and then 2 seconds later a member walks in, or you're on the gym floor and you're trying to spend a little bit of time in the studio, as an example, with one of you guys to go and upskill them or whatever, and then something goes off in another area of the gym and you're like, oh, like it happens, doesn't it? So time management's a massive one as well, isn't it? Which is probably something that a lot of people struggle with in general, maybe not just in our industry, but across the board. It's absolutely a key one. But then, mate, you know what I'm like as well. If I'm starting something, fucking hell, leaves me head if I can't concentrate on it. So, like, getting used to those, I suppose, getting used to having to adjust or react at times, because part of the job is reactive, but being reactive in a positive way. Does that make sense? Rather than, this has gone wrong, shit. It's more, oh yeah, right, let me go and turn that into a positive. Do you get what I mean?
Well, you say problem solving.
Yeah, absolutely, mate.
You become a problem solver, and I think that like some of the, I don't like saying it like that, but some of the better or the people you'd look at and think they're a good manager. They're good problem solvers, because there's always something or an issue or a problem will arise that you have to fix quickly. And I know we harp on about long-term plans and taking your time and building rapport, but when you're a GM, a general manager, a gym manager, whatever you want to call it, there's an element of solving a problem. There's something that's come, like, make just a change in model circumstance or an increase in rent for your current group of PTs that you've got. Like, that's something that will get through on you with a month's notice, that you've got to then support, guide, coach, and you've got to think quickly on how am I going to do this to support the people that I've got around me. And it's, we've got this is what the frigging podcast is about, but you use your skills, transfer your skills from what you would do with a client who falls off the wagon, or somebody who just comes to you and goes, I'm leaving, or whatever it is. You use those skills and how you think and how you manage that to transfer that into how you would manage a situation as a gym manager.
How you deliver that message is massive, isn't it, mate? Like we've seen it where people have just been like, oh yeah, this is happening, see you in a bit. Like, imagine that. I always just try and put myself in those shoes, and I think that, like, if someone said this to me, how would I react? If someone said X, Y, Z and showed me that this was why it was being done, why it was being implemented long term, what was the reasonings for it, like all of that sort of stuff, I can live with that.
Yeah.
So when I'm going to go and deliver that message, I'm going to try and do exactly the same thing. And I'm not just going to shirk it and blurt it out and run off into my office and put my feet up, because that's not helping anyone. Like ultimately, we've said it already, but being a good human being is probably one of the biggest traits, isn't it? Really, like when you're managing people. Yeah. How would this land with me? Okay, I'd probably be pissed off if someone did that to me, so I'm not going to do it to anyone else. Like you'd think it's common sense, but I suppose again that's coming back to that self-awareness piece of how does this land, that emotional intelligence piece of, right, let me understand who I'm delivering this to, how they interpret it, what's been going on in their life recently, what other factors are leaking into that, their level of comprehension. So all of this other stuff, when I deliver the message to them, is going to be in them. It's going to be what I'm going to have to take into account. And I think even that then dictates whether you deliver certain messages to people as a group or certain messages to people on an individual level. Yeah. Like, because you're going to get two completely different reactions individually and in a group, because you get that mob mentality as well. So, and that's not me saying you shouldn't, like there absolutely is times when you have to deliver messages as a group and be willing to stand up and answer those questions and whatever else. But again, that's going to be dependent on what the message is and the group of people that you're working with. And again, that comes down to you knowing them inside out and understanding your people, doesn't it?
Mate, but these are then skills that you reach on from when you're a PT, because if you increase your prices, there's a change in circumstances. All that is going to come into play. How will I relay that message on? How am I going to explain it to these people? There's going to be some people that I'll send an email to. There's going to be some people that I need to speak to first before I send the email, because the way the email reads is different. All of those skills that you've picked up as a PT, and mate, I think that a good PT would make a good gym manager, because we come into this industry because we want to support, nurture and help people, and we've been on a journey ourselves. Do you know what I mean? And when you come into management, you then become somebody who has to look after not just the group of people that you're working with, a wider group, because you've got members, 1,000 members, 2,000 members, 6,000, 8,000 members that you've got to, that you've got to answer to, or they're going to ask you a question. And them skills that if you run a business based on people support, nurture and guidance, them skills that you've got will help you as a gym manager, in my opinion. And we say it all the time, mate, like people and being a good person is what will help you out. And it's just thinking about it, mate, overly thinking about it in my head now as we've gone on about this. But, and I've probably come into this thinking, yeah, mate, just make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. But mate, a real good PT that's got a solid business, real good systems in place, that's the time management's on point, would transition into a manager really well.
Yeah.
And they would, and it would work. The only thing I would say is just make sure it's taking you, the decisions that you make has got to get you a step closer to what your long-term goal is. And if that's what that is, the skills, and this is probably the moral of the podcast, to be fair, the skills that you have in your current position can transfer into the role that you're going to take on as a manager, and you'll need them, and you'll need to use them. It's important, because if you, like we said at the very start, both of us went through that. If you come in and see somebody who's flying as a manager, but the way their traits are is nothing like what you're like, it's never going to come across genuine. So you could run in with an iron fist, you couldn't come in overly nurturing or whatever. If it doesn't suit or match the way you are as an individual, people are going to find you out.
Well, exactly that. And like you say, it's not authentic then, and the, like, people aren't stupid, they see through that sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? So no, I agree, mate. I think if anything, is the takeaway from the podcast, is that the skill sets that you have and that you've developed as a PT can transition absolutely into a manager, as long as you view them that way, and you wouldn't have that level of understanding of which skills transfer, and any areas of development that you have are still going to be the same even when you're in a management position, and your approach is still going to be you. So just use those to your advantage, and crack on. But no, yeah, it's been good, mate. It's been good. Little quick one for everyone.
Been a long time coming. We've been too busy, haven't we?
Mate, it has been rammed. Yeah. It has been rammed. But no, thanks for listening. Cheers for jumping on, guys. Really appreciate you tuning in. As always, you can listen through iTunes, you can listen through Spotify, and you can listen through YouTube. We'll catch you up next time. Please do subscribe, and we look forward to speaking to you in the future. Have a good one.